Yep. All right. Good evening, everybody. The time is 7 o'clock and we're going to get started on the meeting. So Deb, would you please kick us off?
Counselor Williams,
Yes.
Counselor Hansi,
Here.
Counselor Purser is excused absent, Counselor Parrish,
Yes.
Counselor Downs,
Here.
and Counselor Miller.
Present.
Right. Thank you. I'm going to ask that everybody rise, take a moment of silence, followed by the Pledge of Allegiance. Thank you. I pledge allegiance
To the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you. Tonight, we have an agenda before us. Are there any changes to the agenda?
No changes to the agenda, Mr. Mayor.
Right. With that, I need a motion to adopt the agenda.
So moved.
Second.
All right, we have a first, a second, any discussion? All right, Deb?
Counselor Williams,
Yes.
Counselor Hansi,
Yes.
Counselor Parrish,
Yes.
Counselor Downs, Counselor Miller.
Yes.
Motion passes 5-0.
Great, thank you. We have no proclamations or presentations tonight, so we're going to jump right into public participation and consent agenda. And this section is set aside for City Council to listen to comments by the public regarding items that do not otherwise appear on this agenda or that are on the consent agenda. We do ask that if you come up, if you could please state your
Sorry.
full name.
I would also ask you to invite anyone who's here for resolutions 5 and 6
Will do.
to please, give their public comment during this time, since those are not actual public hearings.
Was on my list. You beat me to it.
Thank you.
I do ask that if you come up, please state your full name and your address. And as a reminder, we do have some items that are on the administrative agenda, and there will not be time to publicly participate in those. So if there's something you'd like to comment on that, now would be the time to do so. So with that, is there anybody that would like to come up and talk about anything that's on the consent agenda or any other items? Thank you.
My name is Lou Brackett. I live at 848 Doug Drive in Fruita, Colorado. I'm a veteran and a citizen here of Fruita, and I would publicly like to thank the city of Fruita, its staff, and also to the city council for recognition of President Carter and of having the flag fly at half-staff for recognition for his service as a Navy veteran, but also primarily as a statesman, humanitarian who did well to include being awarded a Nobel Peace Prize for his work within the community for a lot of years after his election. So I wanted to publicly stand and thank the city council and the staff of Fruita for recognizing that and for recognizing all of the veterans in our community. Thank you.
Thank you. All right. Is there anybody else that would like to come up and speak at this time? Thought I saw somebody start to stand up. Oh. Yes. And I did forget to say it's time is for speaking is 3 minutes.
Hello, my name is Sarah Bulletin. I live at 1877 J and 6 Road. I am here tonight because we now have more than 1,700 signatures on the petition that is against 19 road expansion projects. These aren't just numbers, they're members of our community. They're farmers, families, and lifelong residents of Fruita and our voices. Your role is to represent the people, yet the people are overwhelmingly against this project. At what point will you listen? Instead of pushing forward against the will of Fruita citizens, I urge you to pause, reconsider, and respect the voices of those who voted for you. Any amount of farmland lost is farmland gone forever. Eminent domain is wrong. Thank you.
Thank you, Sarah. Is there anybody else who would like to come up at this time?
Good evening. My name is Shelby Beto, and my husband and I live in unincorporated Mesa County on 19 Road. We've been part of the Fruita community for over 18 years. The city of Fruita's expansion on 19 Road is due to forced growth on the community due to the subdivisions that the city has allowed. It's also due to the city of Fruita's misclassification on 19 Road. 19 Road is not classified as a major arterial like you have it, but only as a minor collector as specified in CDOT's official road classifications. When roads are misclassified, it has a snowball effect on the surrounding areas and its people and community. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. Is there anybody else that would like to come up to speak before we close public participation? So as a reminder, there'll be no other opportunities. All right, at this point, we're going to go ahead and close public participation. And from there, we are going to jump into our consent agenda.
I was going to say.
That's normally my role to forget about it. So are there any changes to the consent agenda?
No changes to the consent agenda, Mr. Mayor.
All right. The consent agenda, these items will be approved in a single motion of council members. Just as a reminder, we can pull anything off for discussion. And just because if somebody votes no on one item, does not mean that they vote no on everything. So with that, I'm going to bring it to council. Anybody have any questions, concerns, comments on any items on the consent agenda?
Mr. Mayor, I move to approve the consent agenda as before us.
Second.
All right, we have a first and a second. Any other or any questions or comments? All right, hearing none.
Counselor Hansi,
Yes.
Counselor Parrish,
Yes.
Counselor Downs, Counselor Miller,
Yes.
and Counselor Williams.
Yes.
Motion passes 5-0.
Great, thank you. We're going to go ahead now and move into item A, legislative public hearing, a request to authorize the mayor to execute and update an agreement letter with Timothy Graves and the law firms of, I'm going to mess this up, Stuver and Lemoyne, PC. Hopefully I got that correct. From Municipal Prosecutor Legal Services, and Shannon Vossen, our interim city manager. You are up.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor, members of the City Council, for the opportunity to present. The item before you is authorizing the mayor to execute an updated engagement letter for our municipal prosecutor services for our municipal court. We hired Tim and his law firm back in 2019 after a RFP process. And he's been doing great work. We have not made any changes to the contract since he was hired. So based upon feedback that I received from the police department, the municipal judge, and our court clerk, they've recommended that we continue working with Tim and continue with this updated engagement letter because he's been representing the court in the city very well, and I'm very happy to have him as our municipal prosecutor. I realize that not everyone knew that we had a municipal prosecutor, and also that he served Fruita, but I wanted to take some time to introduce him to the council and have him answer any questions that you may have. So Tim, thank you for joining us tonight. Here he comes, yeah, all the way from Rifle. So I'll defer any questions to him after you get done.
Good evening. My name is Timothy Graves. I am a partner with the law firm of Lemoyne and Graves, and that's one of the reasons we need to update our contract. Is my law firm has changed names since 2019. So that's just one of the things that I'm asking the council to adopt tonight. We've had in my 6 years only one appeal that's come out of this court. It was an appeal regarding a issue with the code related to what is a dog owner, a very kind of existential question, I guess. But the reason that is an issue is when we first put together this contract, there was really no specification about who handles an appeal. Does it go to the city attorney? Does it stay with my office? And so that's just one of the things that we're asking the court, or excuse me, the council to approve for the court. I've been with the court for 6 years now, and I am constantly impressed by the staff of Fruita, as well as our court clerk, Mamie Alsop, and our judge, Dan Robinson. They are phenomenal in their positions, and they've really helped me to grow in my position. And I've loved serving this community for the last 6 years. I've been an attorney for only 11 years, and so I've spent more than half of my career in Fruita, and I've learned to really embrace a community and to let the community lead my values when it comes to how I handle a municipal court. Each community is different, and I work in a lot of different communities, and that requires some nuance, and it requires kind of looking to the community and what is needed in order to really reach that the court has. This court is very focused on rehabilitation and on putting people back in a position where they can be successful members of the community. And that's really our focus, specifically with juveniles. And so that's something that I've really worked hard on in my last 6 years. And with your blessing, something I'd like to continue working on moving forward. And so I just wanted to introduce myself. It's been 6 years since I've spoken in front of you guys. And so again, I just want to introduce myself and say thank you for the opportunity to serve this wonderful community and your blessing to continue to do so moving forward. If you have any questions for me, I'm happy to try to answer those.
Thanks for coming tonight. Is there anything that we can do to help you?
Well, there's another
Other than
item
what's in the
there's another
contract?
item right after this that we can talk a little bit more about. But, you know, honestly, I feel like we've got a great police staff. They do fantastic work, and that makes my job so much easier. So I just ask you to continue to support the police department, continue to support the municipal court. And again, thank you all for your time.
Thank you.
Yeah.
You. All right.
Mr. Mayor, I move to approve.
Sorry.
I already did one, so I figured somebody else wanted to turn.
Mr. Mayor, I think you want to open the public hearing.
For public comment.
Oh, thank you. I appreciate that.
I know.
I'm sorry. I missed that. Thank you, Deb.
All right. That's normally your job.
I know.
So with that, I'd like to open up for public comment. If anybody would like to discuss anything on resolution 2025-03. All right, seeing none, I'm going to go ahead and close public comment and bring it back to staff. Council,
You're doing great, Mayor.
thanks, yeah.
I move to approve resolution 2025-03, a request to authorize the mayor to execute an updated engagement letter with Timothy Graves and the law firm Stuver and Lemoyne, PC, for municipal prosecution services in accordance with the terms described in the attached agreement.
Counselor Miller, I would actually ask, since Tim brought up that his firm name has changed, I believe that engagement letter is actually with the new firm name, which is Graves and Lemoyne. So if
It's what in Moyne?
Graves,
Graves, okay.
so if you could just amend your motion to reflect that, that would be great.
Okay. Okay.
Thank
Let's
you.
start over. I move to approve resolution 2025-03, a request to authorize the mayor to execute an updated engagement letter with Timothy Graves and the law firm Lemoyne and Graves, PC, for municipal prosecution services in accordance with the terms described in the attached agreement.
Second.
First and a second. Any other questions, comments?
None.
All right, Deb?
Counselor Parrish,
Yes.
Counselor Downs, Counselor Miller,
Yes.
Counselor Williams, Counselor Hansi,
Yes.
motion passes 5-0.
Great, Thank you. Next up, we have another legislative public hearing, ordinance 2025-02, which is a second reading. A request to approve an ordinance amending chapter 10.04 of the Fruita Municipal Code regarding the model traffic code, and presented by Shannon Vossen, the interim city manager.
Thank you again, Mr. Mayor and members of the City Council, for the opportunity to present. The ordinance before you amends our current municipal code to an updated 2024 model traffic code. These are the laws and regulations that apply to people driving, biking, walking throughout Fruita, and currently we're on the 2010 model traffic code. And as you can imagine, there has been several changes since 2010. So back in August of last year, we approached the council about a few municipal code amendments, and this was one of two of them that we discussed. The model traffic code is adopted by reference, so what you see in the packet is not the full code, but rather the packet is adopts the full code, but then has some additions and deletions. All the additions you see have been authored by our municipal court and our police department, and they'd be happy to answer any questions on those if you have them after public comment. But really, the point of this is to bring us in alignment with current standards for model traffic and pedestrian regulations, and staff recommends approval of this municipal code amendment. Happy to take any questions after public comment. Thank you.
Thanks for the prompt. All right, with that, would like to open this up to public comment on ordinance 2025-02. Is there anybody that would like to come and speak on this? All right, seeing none, I'm going to go ahead and close public comment and bring it back to council. Anybody have any questions? Okay, I've got two. One of which is section 1205, subsection 5, I think is A. I understand no person shall park a vehicle upon a roadway for the purpose of greasing, painting, washing, or repairing. Do we really want to make it so it's against code to wash your car on the street?
We got the guy here.
I guess we do.
The intent behind that is an environmental intent. When you are changing your oil on the street, maybe next to a sewer drain, you spill that oil. Now it's in the Colorado River, and it is irreplaceable to get it back. And so we're not looking to keep people from doing work on their cars. We're just trying to make sure they do it safely in a manner that's not going to negatively affect not just this community, but many communities downstream.
So my specific question was about the washing of cars. I understand painting and oil changes and that, which release, those chemicals directly into the street, and first time it rains, it goes into the sewer. It's more of washing cars, because we have situations where people may be in an apartment complex or whatever. They have no other choice but to wash their car. And if you wash your car in the driveway, you're already adding all the water, and it's going to go ahead into the sewer anyways.
And it's the same reason, essentially. I can't promise you that every person's going to be out there using a soap that's friendly to the environment. When you go to a car wash, they have specific drains that go to a tank that they know how to take care of. Any individual on the street could be using who knows what to clean their car. And ultimately, it's the same concern. I can understand that it may seem overbroad. Again, the intent's not to try to keep somebody from having a clean car. The intent is trying to keep the river clean.
I just don't want to sit down yet.
Fair enough.
As a heads up, there's the other section that I know was asked about, and I'm trying to find the exact code, but it was about with people having children under the age of 10 playing in the streets, and was looking for some clarification. It's section 801. The fact that a child under the age of 10 is engaged in any activity within a public street or roadway, contrary to the provisions of subsection A, the section shall be prima facie evidence that the parent, guardian, or other persons having custody of the child is guilty of violating this section. Just looking for some clarity on this in terms of, having young children play in the street, and what's the implication or potential implication of that section.
And this is not the sort of thing where an officer is going to be patrolling the street watching for kids. Really, the idea here is that if there is an accident that involves a child, it gives the officer an opportunity to look at both sides of the story and determine who's actually at fault here. It's one thing for a driver to come flying around a corner and hit a child without having seen them. It's an entire another thing for a child to run out in front of a car. And in that situation, an officer needs to be able to say, okay, here's where fault lies. And so again, the intent is not to penalize people for having fun or for doing things in the street. The intent is to try to make sure that if there is an accident, that blame can be put in the right direction.
Part of my concern on this one is, as I read it, which is if you've got kids out in the street playing street hockey or basketball or something like that, that set up an opportunity where the children and the parents could then, there could be legal consequences to that. I understand that kids can't block the road and not let traffic through.
Mhm.
But I just want to get clarification. That's not what this, neither the intent nor the implication of this.
So I can't speak to the intent. Obviously I didn't write this myself. How I read it is how I described it. It's not intended to, try to keep kids from having fun or try to keep kids from doing what kids do. The intent is that in their situation that there is an accident and the driver's truly not at fault, so that insurance company, what have you, those collateral consequences don't fall back on that person who's not at fault.
So is there a way to write intent further into this? Because they're still pretty vague that how you read it for face value is, yeah, if you're playing in the road, you're in trouble.
Well,
Like, is there a way to gain clarity and have the intent in it and not just have it assumed that you just hope that you're not catching someone on a bad day to get a ticket or get a summons and then catch you hopefully on the day that you really feel the intent of it. Like, it'd be nice to make this more black and white instead of just the intent, like the subjective. And it'd be nice to make this more objective.
the concern with making things overly narrow is that you put officers in a situation where they read something like, well, maybe it doesn't directly apply because this specific verbiage. The thing that you've got to kind of trust and rely on is officer discretion. Like I said a few minutes ago, we've got great police here in Fruita, and I don't see them out there writing tickets because, Billy and Joey are playing basketball in the street. And so if the council would like to further narrow that, I don't see a problem with that. I would just encourage you to not be too constrictive in that narrowing.
Want to hear from others in terms of their thoughts on this?
I'm comfortable with how he has explained it.
Don't mind.
Andrea?
I feel comfortable. I do like the explanation. I appreciate it. It helps a lot. And I think that if it were to come down to a situation where it would be discussed, I believe that the right conversation would be kickstarted from that starting place. So I feel comfortable with it.
James?
Yeah, I mean, yeah, I trust our police to do the right thing, but I don't like the way it's worded. I'm kind of with you on it. I wish it wasn't so vague. And it's unlawful that section A, like you're saying, if they're playing ball in the middle of the street, you could fall that under that category of that. Not that the police are going to be running around trying to chase kids out of the street for playing ball, but I mean, it is pretty. I don't know what I would change about it. That's my problem. And going back to I'm with you on the car washing part of that too. I would like to see that taken out of it.
So Mary Elizabeth, if we request changes to be reviewed on that, so technically we would make a motion, we'd send it back, ask for adjustments to come back.
Correct. So you could continue this public hearing to the next meeting and direct staff to come back with more information. Maybe it sounds like you have concerns about the car washing restriction, maybe some more data or information about why car washing can be just as, detrimental to the river stormwater system as potentially other like obvious hazards like oil. And that also, it sounds like you're looking for a little more information or guidance with regard to the
Potentially.
children in the street.
Are you guys comfortable if we ask for a continuance on this and to get some more information?
Is there anything, since you are continuing it, is there anything else that anybody has a question or concern about that they'd like more information?
No, but I think we need to kind of give some direction of I want to make sure it's clear what our concerns are to give for staff, which is there a little bit more background information on the car wash and why that's in there and what are the potential environmental ramifications of it? So we can evaluate that and then look at the specific section for with children and in the street. Is there a way to make that a little bit, yes. Are you guys comfortable with that?
I think that's sufficient.
Sure, yeah, and I hate that I'm one of the ones holding it up, but I want kids to do what kids want to do. And I want people to have the freedom to wash their cars. So those are two things that I would like to do before we just take away stuff from people.
Right. All right.
Might I make a suggestion that if you do continue it, that you continue it to a specific date?
Yes,
Take this to workshop.
Workshop, wouldn't it?
yeah. So I'm trying to pull up the calendar to see what makes sense.
Since it is an ordinance and it's a continued public hearing, you really can't continue it to a workshop. It needs to be continued to an actual council meeting. If you have a workshop scheduled and intervening and want to put that on there to get the additional information, you can. But the hearing has to be continued to a date certain for a council meeting.
Okay.
So we need to add it to a workshop, but then have a hearing after. Add it.
Correct. And my calendar is not working on my iPad. So
And
I
sorry to keep.
don't know a date.
But Counselor Williams, I would say, since this is information you're requesting now in the public hearing, it would be good for the public to have the benefit of the additional information that's going to be provided. So now that I'm thinking about it, I don't really know that a workshop is appropriate to just continue it to a council meeting. You can have another presentation by staff on these two narrow issues with that additional information and have your discussion then. And, hopefully you have enough information at that time to act on the ordinance.
So at that point, if we get information that makes us want to change some of the verbiage, are we able to do it in that?
We're able to do.
Okay. And then that serves the purpose that we're trying to get to.
And then my question back at staff is how much time would be appropriate to allow time to pull the information and pull it together? Certainly don't want to rush. I'm looking for a proposed date.
Municipal court waiting though for this to get adopted because it can't be enforced. So I think staff would be pretty quick on a turnaround because right now you're under the old model traffic code. And so officers aren't able to issue citations under the new provisions, which are obviously a lot more than just these.
Right.
two.
Yes.
Right.
Are these implemented immediately or do they have a 30-day period?
There's a 30-day curing period for all of our ordinances. We could probably February 4th have additional information back to the council, so it could be reconsidered if you want to continue the public hearing to February 4th.
My other part of that would be too, Matt, if I'm the only one that's holding it up, we don't.
I don't think I've got some concerns on it. It sounded like you've got some
Okay, as long as
concerns
it's
about
not, no, it's not.
No,
a
it's
majority.
not just you.
Okay, okay. Sure.
Do we need to have a motion to
I believe we need a motion to do a continuance to the February 4th meeting to continue the public hearing on ordinance 2025-02.
to the 4th?
Yes,
I move to continue ordinance 2025-02, ordinance amending chapter 1004 of the Fruita Municipal Code regarding the 2024 model traffic code to February 4th public hearing.
all right. We got that right?
To the February 4th council meeting. the public hearings being continued to the council meeting.
So moved.
So
amended.
amended and moved.
So seconded.
All right, we have a second. All right, any other questions, discussions? Nope. Deb?
Counselor Downs, Counselor Miller, Counselor Williams,
Yes.
Counselor Hansi,
Yes.
and Counselor Parrish.
Yes.
Motion passes 5-0.
Right, thanks. Then our last one up is legislative public hearing, ordinance 2025-03, second reading, an ordinance amending section 6.13, 9.01.007, and 9.01.024 of the Fruita Municipal Code concerning certain criminal charges to align with Colorado state statutes, presented once again by Shannon Boston, interim city manager.
I present too much, don't I? Thank you again, Mr. Mayor, City Council, for the opportunity to present. This is the second municipal code amendment that we discussed at our August workshop. Specifically, this changes the fine and potential imprisonment schedule for two of our municipal offenses, specifically theft and criminal mischief. We talked at the August workshop about some disparity between what is currently in the municipal code and then what is in the revised statute. So we received direction from council to move forward with aligning those. So within the specific chapter on theft and criminal mischief, we just changed the reference to, instead of a class B municipal offense, it now refers to the CRS statute. So as it gets updated, we will have updated fines and potential penalty schedules as well. The second portion of this update reflects some changes to the definition of dangerous animals and also the disposition of animals. There was some pretty harsh language in the previous codes. This kind of cleans this up and also allows some flexibility for our municipal judge and our police department if those situations do arise. Staff recommends approval of the municipal code amendment and always happy to take any questions after public comment. Thank you.
Thank you. With that, I'd like to open up to public comment on ordinance 2025-03. Does anybody wish to come up and speak? All right, seeing none, going to go ahead and close public participation and bring it back to council. Any questions or comments on this item?
I move to approve ordinance 2025-03, an ordinance amending section 6.13, 9.01.007, and 9.01.024 of the Fruita Municipal Code concerning certain criminal charges to align with Colorado state statutes.
Second. All right, we have a first and a second. Any other questions or comments on this item? All right, seeing none. Deb?
Counselor Miller,
Oh, you did?
Yeah, I just wanted to comment.
Apologize.
So our purpose in changing this to those thresholds is that's to fall more in line with the state, right? And I just wanted that to be put out publicly, that these aren't our numbers that we're throwing out.
Yeah, our current are much more punitive, and there's quite a big difference between the two just because they haven't been updated. So this just updates to the current revised statutes and puts us more in line with what we see with our neighbors across the state and other organizations.
And also just to add to that, it will, because it now adopts the statute, then as the statute is amended, this will automatically follow those amendments. So it doesn't have to keep coming back to you to get changed.
And unfortunately, we don't have any other recourse. We have to kind of move along with it, don't we?
I actually will let him.
It just, the thresholds bother me.
How this all came about is I was actually I'm the prosecutor in Rifle as well. In the fall of 2023, Rifle had the exact same penalty structure that Fruita currently has. We had an attorney file a motion to hold that our theft statute was unconstitutional because it was a higher punitive standard than the state standard. This was right after the state changed. This appeal went all the way up to the Supreme Court of Colorado. Rifle at that time determined that they didn't want to pay for that fight and just changed their code to fall in line. There is now pending in front of the Colorado legislature a bill that would require every municipality across the state to fall in line with the state statutes. So whether you do this or not, chances are it's coming.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Thanks for the clarity.
Judge Robinson did, I remember he
Yep.
did
Yeah, I-
recommend this to, he brought this to us.
Yeah, I just wanted it to be talked
Good,
about in
yeah.
the public forum that those thresholds, I don't agree with them, but it's not our choice. So.
And ultimately, it's an argument of equal protection. If an officer is going to choose to write you into the municipal court, which has a higher penalty than choosing to write you into the county court, which has a lower penalty. And so the issue there becomes, is the officer going to write you into the more punitive court because he doesn't like you, or whatever it may be. And so whether those arguments hold water or not, I'm not going to make any comment, but that is the argument.
Thank you.
Probably more to follow on this.
It's unfortunate, but it is what it is.
James, I apologize, I cut you off.
No, you're fine. No problem.
All right, we still have a first and a second. With that, Deb?
So Counselor Williams?
No,
No?
No.
Counselor Hansi? Counselor Parrish?
Yes.
Counselor Downs?
Yes.
Motion passes 4-1.
Thank you. All right, the last section of our public hearing is a quasi judicial public hearing on ordinance 2025-04. This is a second reading authorizing the city manager or the interim city manager to execute an agreement with Two Forks Ventures, Inc. for the sale of real property located at 879 Raptor Road in Fruita, Colorado, commonly known as the Launch, and authorizing the conveyance thereof upon completion of minor subdivision to create a legal lot. And up is our Planning and Development Director, Mr. Dan Karas. The floor is yours.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor and members of council. Again, as the council and public recalls, back on December 17th, we passed Resolution 2024-46, which was the development agreement that the city entered in with Two Forks Ventures to pursue this partnership to develop what is known as the Launch, but is 879 Raptor Road, or for the public's edification, our old decommissioned sewer lagoons. And that development agreement set forth a schedule as to which the property would go under contract for sale, and then contemplates when that property would actually be conveyed. And so in order to meet that schedule, the first reading went the same night, December 17th, as the development agreement, and set tonight as a public hearing to authorize the interim city manager to execute any and all documents that would effectuate that deal. And so that is what the action is this evening. Of course, the staff recommends approval of ordinance 2025-04. And we do have Gavin Brook from Two Forks Ventures here this evening, if the council has any questions. But that concludes my presentation, and be happy to answer any questions after the public hearing.
Thanks. Gavin, do you care to say anything? Okay. All right, with that, would like to open up to public comment on ordinance 2025-04. Is there anybody here that would like to speak on this ordinance? All right, seeing none, I'd like to bring it back to council.
No question.
Still excited.
Move.
Hold on, sorry.
So can we just elaborate a little bit on why we're selling this property to Two Forks? Like, what's the strategy behind it? Can we elaborate a little bit more on that? Because there is a strategy, correct? Sorry, I don't mean. We do have a strategy. I'd like it to be publicly communicated for full transparency on why we're selling this property to Two Forks.
Thank you for adjusting that.
Yes.
So part of the strategy is to pursue a riverfront development as well as a commercial and mixed use development at that site. It's approximately 41 acres. Selling it to Two Forks Ventures early in the project. Our development agreement contemplates this 50% revenue split. And so essentially, like, as the project becomes more and more successful, not only does the city and the community enjoy the amenity of the riverfront development, but we share in the proceeds of the value of the real estate appreciating over time. So that is a strategy of that the development agreement kind of contemplates, and that is the best way that we've found to be able to pursue this project, knowing that it's a challenged site and that it's going to have to be kind of completed over several phases.
Thank you.
Anything else, sir?
Nope.
All right, that.
Move to adopt ordinance 2025-04, second reading, authorizing the city manager, or interim city manager, to execute an agreement with Two Forks Ventures Incorporated for the sale of real property located at 879 Raptor Road, Fruita, Colorado, commonly known as The Launch, and authorizing the conveyance thereof upon completion of a minor subdivision to create a legal lot.
All right, we have a first and a second. Any other questions or comment? All right, Deb?
Counselor Williams?
Yes.
Counselor Hansi? Counselor Parrish?
Yes.
Counselor Downs?
Yes.
And Counselor Miller? Motion passes 5-0.
Thank you very much. With that, we're going to head into our administrative agenda. First up is Resolution 2025-05, a resolution of the City Council of the City of Fruita authorizing staff to commence eminent domain proceedings in court against property commonly referred to as 96619 Road, Fruita, Colorado, to acquire right-of-way for 19 Road. And Mary Elizabeth Geiger, our city attorney, and Steve Martinez, project manager, and Dan Karras, planning director. And I'm not sure who's going first.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor and members of council. Just give me 1 second while I share my screen. Again, my name is Dan Karras. I'm the planning director for the city of Fruita. This presentation this evening is going to be kind of done kind of in 3 parts. I was going to kind of open up, like, sort of generally speaking, what are the policy principles that have led us to the project that is 19 Road, and then Steve Martinez, who's the project manager, along with our engineering staff, will present the kind of right-of-way acquisition that relates to that faction of the process. And then we're going to go through specifically the actionable steps and timeline that have kind of led us to where we're at today. So again, this is Resolution 2025-05, a resolution of the City Council of the City of Fruita authorizing staff to commence with the eminent domain proceedings in court against the property known as 96619 Road. Just to kind of take a step back so we can take a step forward, very common cities establish circulation plans that usually are in alignment with kind of just the overall development outlook of the city. Certainly, we've got kind of the overarching document, which is the comprehensive plan. We've got development code, our circulation plan, our parks, health, open space, recreation, and trails plan, sewer master plans. We have all these like policy related documents that essentially set forth development standards as it relates to all the different factions within those disciplines. The circulation plan, it is that for transportation related improvements that really does consider both pedestrian, vehicular, other modes of transportation, and sets forth what is really a framework for how we treat everyone equally that is going through any sort of project related with within the city. And so that leads me to kind of the next thing that is essentially established as a part of this, a part of the circulation plan, which is the street classifications map. Again, this is, not necessarily specific to the request this evening, but I think it's important to touch on because whether you're annexing into the city, whether we're building a road that has the city on one side and the county on the other, we follow this circulation plan. And as you can see, that circulation plan doesn't just contemplate areas that are within the already existing municipal boundaries. It considers the lands that are within our urban development boundary as well, that are not within the city. And so, so why that's important is that this sets forth a way that we can, essentially not deviate from what sections of right-of-way and what road classifications get built. So for the purposes of this evening, 19 Road has a very specific set of right-of-way and improvements that are going to take place along that north-south corridor. And I just think it's important to know that those are not made in an arbitrary fashion. A lot of planning goes into that. In this particular instance, we had a nationally recognized transportation engineering firm, Fair and Peers, that helped us go through that. And so I just wanted to sort of set the basis. That's why we're building the road that we're building, and that's why we're here this evening asking for the ability to complete that street with these resolutions. So with that, I want to turn it over to Steve Martinez, who's going to take us through the right-of-way portion.
Mr. Mayor, members of council, I'm Steve Martinez, project manager for 19 Road of the engineering department. Back in 2022, when I started with the city of Fruita, my first task was to figure out how to get this road built. I think the term was let Steve take a swing at it because it was, kind of new for me. Right now, what you're looking at on the screen is just kind of a cartoon view of what the actual street is going to look like upon completion of this project. Pretend like you're looking north. You've got a sidewalk on the east side. There won't be a sidewalk on the west, etc. But it opens up 19 Road to a 3-lane section with buffered bike lanes. This is actually the second iteration of this design, but I can go into that a little bit further or answer any questions about that as we go through the slides. Do you want to move to the next one? So back in this is basically just a general overview of right-of-way acquisition. So again, kind of a work in progress for me. I'm learning as I go. We hired a firm to help us with this. But when you're purchasing right-of-way, there's a couple of ways that a municipality like ours can get it. It can either be granted through annexation to be defined by whatever type of road you're building, or you can purchase the property fee simple. There are other options in those realms, but if you're building a new road, you really just need to access it and buy it fee simple. And that's where the law of eminent domain or the statute of eminent domain comes in. A lot of people really shy away from the terminology of eminent domain, but really what it basically means is that if a municipality sees fit based on, everything that's going on, whether it's development, growth, all the things that go along with it, we have the right to actually go out and purchase property, or at least negotiate for the purchase of property, but following with the CDOT Uniform Act that sets the rules for it. And in the process of eminent domain, you really do, it really sets it up so that it's a fair process for both parties, whether it be the municipality that's going after the property or the person that owns the property, so that everybody is being treated fairly and squarely. And there are rules and regulations set up that you have to follow that, that basically model that for you, so that there is a process. In the process of 19 Road, the first thing that we did, and I guess this is kind of a general overview of acquisition in general. You have to determine exactly what it is that you need based on the plans for the road. You do your title research, hire a surveyor, they go out there and verify the land that's there. You send out a notice of intent to acquire. Once all the title work and everything has been determined and you know exactly what the property is as defined, so that you're identifying exactly what you're going to be purchasing, then you get it appraised. In the CDOT statute for the Uniform Act, if a property is valued or evaluated by a professional and it is worth more than, let's say $5,000, it really is, I think the cutoff is right at $5,000, then you have the option of going and hiring your own appraiser. So the city's going to appraise your property no matter what, so that we know what the value is. But then the landowner has the opportunity to hire an appraiser at the city's expense to have a secondary appraisal done so that comparisons can be made. And that's basically how we did that on most of the properties on 19 Road. And we'll go a little bit further into that, and I'll try to keep the timeline as brief as possible so that I'm setting it up to answer questions that you guys have as we go through the rest of this. But I wanted to give you a little background on the things that I've learned about acquisition and the process of going through this process, okay? Oh, you make an offer, you negotiate, and then you finalize the sale. And the sale is an actual real estate transaction. You're redefining the property and wedging out whatever it is that you're purchasing as right away so that you own that and the property owner is left with the rest. Okay. We contracted with a professional right-of-way acquisition firm back in March of 2023 to begin the process of acquiring all the right-of-way that we needed to widen 19 Road. And I'm going to have to kind of keep stepping back because I don't have this exactly on my notes. I just have, oh, thanks, Dan. Appreciate it. And so back in March of 2023, we hired a project resource to begin the process of acquiring the right-of-way. The first handful of months, probably about 8 months, there wasn't a lot of activity. It was a bunch of background stuff with surveying and title work and getting title commitments from the title company and all that kind of stuff to verify the purchase of all the properties that we were looking at. And then on January 17th of 2024, we held the first of 3 public meetings. This particular meeting was it was set up to notify all the irrigation users, not just on 19 Road, but people that are affected by the downstream irrigation, that the changes to the irrigation system on 19 Road would be. But it ended up being a public meeting about 19 Road. We ended up spending a lot of time talking about right-of-way acquisition and as well as the actual project itself. And then fast forward to January of 2024, we did a change order to the A project resource contracts to give him more money to hire appraisers. And we did this so that the city didn't have to manage the appraisals ourselves. We could do it through the firm. And that was basically the city's appraisers. So every piece of property worth more than $5,000, we sent out appraisers to go appraise the property. And then each one of those properties was able to either hire a second appraiser or waive their right to a second appraisal, okay? And then on February 1st of 2024, every property on 19 Road who was part of the acquisition process received a notice of intent to acquire letter. And that letter outlined their rights as a property owner. We gave them a whole bunch of appraisers that are certified in acquisition, eminent domain, and CDOT's Uniform Act, so that everybody would have the option of not just using the city's appraisal, but they could go back and get their own appraisal done. Sorry, I keep repeating that. On May of 2024, that 90-day or that notice of interest to acquire comes with a 90-day notice. We want to make sure that all the appraisals get done within that first 90 days. This is, I say we, but really that is basically just how the process works. Following the timelines was a little bit, I should say, like kind of, we were really flexible. And due to the timeline for this particular property, we ended up granting a 30-day extension for the secondary appraisal because it was coming in. I think at first he said it was going to be there June 8th, and then it was June 15th. And I think we finally got that final appraisal on July 1st for that property. So now we have 2 appraisals done on the property. And we can begin talking about the numbers and negotiating. And then on July 17th, we hosted our second public meeting. This public meeting was specifically about 19 Road. And we sent out postcards, we sent out emails. There was posts on the website and in social media, thank you, Ciara, for making sure that the word got out so we could get as many people here as we could. And it really was, I think it's important to point out right now, and this is a little bit off subject, but our original iteration, our original design for 19 Road was a lot more intrusive as far as the east side of the road. Because of the plans for a detached bike path that was 8 feet wide, we had plans for a ditch. And those things fit into the future road of what the future road was going to look like. But most of that was just kind of sacrificial at the time. But it also was, and we determined this based on feedback from the people that we spoke to at the meeting, probably unnecessary to do it the way that we were doing it right then. So based on feedback from that meeting, we redesigned 19 Road completely. We scrapped the design and we came back and we built it to the road section that you saw on that earlier slide. And the reason that I point that out is because it's really important for me to infer to you guys that this is not we're not trying to, do anything wrong. We're trying really hard to make this fair and equitable for everybody that's involved. Because even though people, they might live on one of these roadways that's going to eventually be updated, there's 90% of the community that is complaining that we're not updating the roads. And so we've got an obligation to kind of take care of the entire group, right? But that feedback that we received, we really took some time to think about it, and that's where the new iteration of the road design came from. Let's see. And pardon me while I continually look down at my notes. I have a lot of information in my head, and I promise I'll do my best to get the questions answered as I go through. And if I'm being too long-winded, please just shut me down. Okay, so then on August 29th, the offer paperwork was prepared, and we sent the first offer to Mr. and Mrs. Beto. On October 3rd, we held our third public meeting. This one was unattended. I think we had 2 residents show up. The rest of it was staff and a few council members. On October 8th, Mr. and Mrs. Beto declined the city's offer, but they did inform us that there was going to be a counteroffer. At this point, I was busy with the redesign, trying to get everything prepared for the contractors because we had a November 4th timeline to go to construction on 19 Road. And so we were extremely busy, but I didn't have any indications personally at that point that we weren't going to be able to reach some sort of a resolution. And so I wasn't totally worried about it. I was just, going on with different things, making sure that our right-of-way guy was following up with all of the processes that were going on out there. And then on November 19th, as you all might remember, we provided you guys with a status of the right-of-way acquisition process. December 3rd, we came back for a second status update. And then on December 5th, we sent 5-day notices for final offers to a couple of properties. One of them obviously was in the Beto property. And that same day, we received the counteroffer from Mrs. Beto. I sent the counteroffer back to Matt, telling her thank you for her counteroffer, but we can't accept it. And so our offer that we had on the table was going to be our final offer. And that took place on December 10th. December 12th, they declined the second iteration of our offer. And then on December 17th, we gave them a 10-day final notice that expired on January 2nd. And then the evening of January 1st, we got in writing the decline for this final offer from Mr. and Mrs. Beto. And during the process of going through, obviously all the right-of-way acquisition, the building the road, there were other conversations that happened in there, and I'd be happy to answer any questions about anything else. But we answered concerns. We didn't ignore any requests. We feel like we, as you guys probably saw in the staff report, we was a lot more informed than this little presentation. But as a result of the timeline and where we're at right now, the staff recommendation is that we do ask you to approve Resolution 2025-05, a resolution of the City Council of the City of Fruita authorizing staff to commence eminent domain proceedings in court against property commonly known as 966 19 Road Fruita, Colorado, to obtain the right-of-way that we need for the right-of-way, for the building of 19 Road. Any questions? Counsel?
Actually, before we do that, Mary Elizabeth, is there anything you would like to add before we bring it back to council?
I think Steve actually did an excellent job. This is a statutory process. These steps are outlined in the statute for the initial notice of intent to acquire, the 90 days, the ability to get that second appraisal. And so those are the steps that were followed. And also on top of that, there's the CDOT right-of-way acquisition manual, which adds some additional requirements. So it is a process. It's a long process. It's a process that is governed by statute. It's not something the city can make up or wing it, so to speak. And so, I think that's just important information that staff has provided. And then the timeline to show that under that statutory process, this could have happened much faster if you just kind of went by those initial, 90 days, and then here's the first offer, and then here's the last offer. And the city has worked really hard at direction by council, and I think, staff to, not rush it and to make sure that that dialogue has happened with property owners, most of which have gone to under contract and to a closing or scheduled for a closing. So it was certainly, not rushed. There was a lot of time given and thought and negotiation.
Thank you. All right, with that, back to council. Questions, comments? If not, I'll start off. So as part of this process with this specific property, and I know you'll interrupt me if I'm asking something that's out of bounds. I know that doesn't need to be said. Has there been any conversation in terms of with this acquisition? Does it impact the property owner's ability to grow or raise or harvest on their property?
Not by the current Mesa County guidelines. And we do have clarification from Mesa County that the amount of property that we're looking at purchasing, which is 6,000 square feet, and it's 20 feet by 300 feet, that it will not affect the number of livestock that they're allowed to have on the property.
So within that 20 feet, there was already easements there, correct?
Yeah, there's a 14-foot multi-purpose easement dedicated to Mesa County that most of the right-of-way that we're asking for is encumbered by that easement, yes.
Can you kind of go and talk about easement right away, just kind of the technical side of it? Like,
okay,
you're saying that a lot of the 20 feet, most of it is easement. Can you give
an easement is
Well,
still.
Steve, do you want me to
Sure.
answer that? Sorry. So when that parcel was created, which was by, I believe, a subdivision exemption in Mesa County, that required a plat to be filed. And on that plat was a 14-foot wide multi-purpose easement dedicated to the county for the purpose of installation of utilities. So that 14-foot easement, I'll let staff confirm. I believe there are utilities located within that easement, or I'm not sure. I'm looking to.
I'm not really sure. There are Grand Valley Power underground utilities near, or at least on the far south side of that easement, but I don't know if there's anything else actually running through there at this point besides the gas line, but it's really close to the existing right-of-way line.
So in any event, though, because that easement is in place, the county has the right to put in utilities within that easement, which does mean that it's a non-exclusive easement, meaning the property owner does still own that property and can utilize that surface. However, when those utilities need to be installed, and I'm speaking kind of generally about easements, if you have a utility easement on your property, utilities need to be installed, and you've, let's say, put a shed on top of the easement, the utility company has the right to come in, move your shed, get it out of the way so it can put in the utilities, and doesn't have to put your shed back in place, if that makes sense. So as a property owner, when it's a non-exclusive easement, you do still have the right to use that surface area and that property, but you do use that, subject to the easement purpose, if that makes sense.
That's the first 14 of the 20 feet.
That's correct.
In this particular.
On this particular parcel, yes.
So, and for clarification, if the property owner has a structure there, trees, irrigation line, whatever, that they may have there, if this continues, it would be the city's responsibility and the city's cost to then relocate those items?
That is something that is my understanding, and again, I'm going to let staff correct me if I'm wrong, but that the CDOT right-of-way manual does require relocation costs to be borne by the city or the entity taking the property.
Just for a point of clarification, the agreements or the appraisals include the real property value, which is usually given a number based on square footage. So that's your property value. And then it's also given an improvement value, and that's the stuff that we're talking about right now. And it all fits within that that definition of everything on the real property that stands to be, I guess, changed if the process happens. So anybody that has sprinkler systems, trees, fences, things like that, those go into the purchase price. We're not taking those things. We might even move a fence after we've already purchased it because that's what the rules say. So you're not, and if you guys looked, I know we can't really share it, but the difference between the property value and the improvement values can sometimes be staggering, as far as benefits that people get during the process of right-of-way acquisition, especially if there's relocation benefits and things like that. But even if we can keep a tree in the existing right-of-way, we still have to purchase it. We have to buy it. And that's what we've done all the way up and down this corridor. With 20 of the 22 properties, we've purchased a lot of trees.
On that topic, if we move forward with the condemnation, is that the same? Or would that be different?
Yes, you provide them compensation for their real property value as well as the improvements.
And I think what you're asking, Counselor Miller, is if this goes through the court process. So that court process is also laid out in the statute, and the court appoints a commission that will go out and basically have the appraisals available that have already been done on the property, but issue their own valuation. And so that will take into account, at the end of the day, what is paid to a property owner has to be fair market value. You can't come in and say, we're going to give you $1. And the commission can't come in and say that either. One thing I also just want to remind council, I know we've talked about this before, but even starting the court process or proceedings to condemn the property, that doesn't mean that, that's it. And that the city and the property owner have to stop talking, that there can't be a settlement discussion, that there can't be, that the property owner can't change their mind and accept what has been offered before. So I just want you guys to be aware of that. It's not like, going to court means that's it. We stop talking and, it's up to the court to decide.
Great. Thank you so much.
Mhm.
Questions? Amy,
No, I'm good. That was my main question.
Andrea?
I have a handful of points and questions and comments. I think we did a really good job at assessing the situations of the two of the 22 properties that we're talking about tonight, to make it a most fair process. Like it was said in the presentation, we could have gone through the statutes and been very quick, abrupt, but we chose many times. I don't know how many times there was communications beyond requirements. And so I think that just sets a tone of what we've tried to accomplish through this process, because we don't take right-of-way acquisitions lightly. This isn't something that we love to do or want to do every day. It's because there's a need. And so I just want to say that I think we've done a really good job at giving direction, and staff has executed that the way we've asked. So I guess this is a philosophical question of what gives us the right to do right-of-way acquisitions. Mary Elizabeth, you're probably.
Sure. I mean, that's a constitutional and statutory right. It's a power that's given to governmental entities to be able to, and I hate using this word because, as Steve has eloquently pointed out, it isn't a taking because there is compensation provided. And the Constitution specifically says that the government can't take property without just compensation. So it is a power that's provided to public entities to be able to acquire private property for public purpose.
And I think we all very much respect property rights. That's paramount in our civilized community. And so, I look at this road improvements as a safety improvement, which is one of the mandates of government, right, is for safety. But I want to just say that we do respect property rights, and we don't take this process lightly, and that's why we've gone through a very respectful process. One and two is what's great about this road being improved is it's Fruita taxpayer money. It's not county residents are paying for it. It's the city of Fruita taxpayers are paying for this. Just a few more items. And I hope I say this item right, is I think there's been some challenging information that's been out there that is not accurate to the real facts. I know one thing that breaks my heart is that there's been miscommunication that we're taking a farm away. We're not taking a farm away. We are appropriately compensating for 6,000 square feet on this property. And we're compensating appropriately. We've given many opportunities to compensate and negotiate for values. But we're not decimating someone's property that it's unusable. We're not decimating their farm operations. We're not decreasing, as the county has supported documentation, that we're going to be negatively impacting head count, for example, of livestock that's being allowed. And another bit of information that's kind of been misconstrued is I know in the city of Fruita, we don't have any agricultural land, but we're surrounded by it. And we value that. I think as a council, we very much have conversations that are about the history of our community, and that the ag is a part of it. That's our history. And we want that to be part of our future. And we know that this 19 road expansion is due to development, which means people who have property have the right to develop within our land use codes. And it only builds out when that person decides to. The city of Fruita does not mandate someone to build. If they buy land and we know they're a developer, we do not mandate that they build at a certain time. They can hold the sucker for 1,000,000 years if they want. Good for them. If they want to keep it ag, good for them. If they want to develop it, we're allowed to do it through a process that is very public and transparent. I think I have a couple points left. Sorry. I just want to make sure that I want to just convey the sensitivity of this matter and how important it is for us, and that we do not take this lightly. In a way, I am personally been what some might say negatively impacted by development around me. I bought a home with some property, and the land around me is now being developed by 130 or 150 homes. I personally am not necessarily a big fan of what is being developed, but guess what? I respect the property rights of that landowner, that he legally bought the land, he's legally can develop into what he's doing right now. I appreciate what's been going on, and it will be a nice development, but I wish certain things were different. I won't get into them tonight, but in the course of this development, I've lost access to, I've lost feet. I haven't lost 20 feet of my front property, but I've lost feet to an extended road on Otley. And I've had to work with the developer. I've worked with the city as a private citizen, not as a city councilor. And we found the best results for every entity because we negotiated, we discussed what's best for all the different folks. And so like, I understand the challenges with this right-of-way acquisition. And I can sympathize with it, but I've been there, and I didn't get compensated for losing access. It just kind of went with the nature of the project and how it went down. Just to wrap up, comment is I really appreciate the process that we've gone through. It's very transparent, very respectful. And I just wish that there was some communication that could, like, I think we communicated well as a city staff and council. There's information that's been going around that it's unfortunately inaccurate. And hopefully we've cleared that up tonight. But again, I don't take it lightly of what we're going to be voting on here in a minute. Because I understand property rights and I very much respect it. And I'll end it with that.
Thank you.
Thanks for letting me take the time.
Yep. Thank you, Aaron. You brought up a couple points that I wanted to bring up about property rights and acquisition of people who purchase property and what they can and can't do with it. So thank you. James?
Sure. Most of the things that have been kind of bouncing around in my head have been addressed again, but just for the over clarification, if we do move forward with this, they will get the fair rate at the bare minimum. They also can still go back and negotiate with us and get what was offered, which I would imagine is not the bare minimum.
That's correct. Sorry, I was nodding my head, but I realized that doesn't create a record, so.
Our offer will still be on the table, basically, or we can have that conversation.
That conversation can be, yes, of course.
And I wanted to get into, when you talked about that you did a redesign on that, do we know how that redesign would have originally affected this particular property? As opposed to 20 feet, which even that 14 feet, which is already the 6 feet. What do you have an idea of what that would have looked like?
Yeah. So the 20 feet isn't based on necessarily the road design itself. The 20 feet is based on where the storm drain needs to be in the future and things like that. So 20 feet of right-of-way for that particular defined roadway is standard. If a development happens out there and they are annexing, they automatically give us everything over in right-of-way to match that a full 50 feet of right-of-way from the center line of the road. And so, that's how,
Wouldn't it change the dynamic?
it changes the way that the road looks. It changes how close the sidewalk is to the houses and things like that. Yeah, that was a really big point for us. And I felt like it was a really, really important thing to bring up.
So if the bike path were built out, that would be far more intrusive.
Yeah, I think
So that's why
6 feet more into the road.
6 feet, okay.
Yeah.
That's why that was pulled in after that feet.
Yeah.
Thank you.
James, anything else?
I think for now I'm good.
Aaron? Go around one more time.
Nothing further.
Oh, I have one more actually. Sorry. Yeah. The original, I know he had mentioned that we had the growth that was happening out in there. wasn't also a big part of this, triggering this was that we were mandated from the state to work on 6 and 50, and the exchange there from 19 and 6 and 50. Weren't we mandated to some degree that we had to upgrade the ditch? I'm not using anywhere near the right. Some of them are nodding like I think I'm on the right path, but you know what I'm talking about? This kind of spurred the whole.
Yes, you are on the right path, and I can, sure, and I think Dan or Steve could probably chime in better, but CDOT, controls Highway 6 there. And they did mandate due to increased traffic and increased safety concerns and, building for the future, that the city improve that intersection, which was also then did require the city to enlarge and improve the culvert where the Independent Ranchman's ditch goes through. So the city, having to do that part, I think just made sense from a timing perspective. This was already a project that was slated to occur, but that kind of kicked the timing into, where we are now. Because it made sense to keep, just go ahead and do all the road improvements. And Steve's looking at me like I said something wrong.
Not at all.
Thank you for that. That was another thing that I think is an important piece of this, that it wasn't just an arbitrary thought that we wanted to do this. This was brought up.
Can I add?
Well, and I think though, to, Dan's slides earlier, I mean, the city has though circulation plans, has to do future planning. You can't just like wake up in the middle of the night and be like, oh my gosh, we got to get that road done tomorrow. Because these, as you can see, this process takes a while. We're at year 2 now, if you think about when it started. So I don't want it to sound like it was kind of just because of CDOT. Again, I think that prompted the timing, but the city, already has those circulation plans, the traffic expert that came in and, kind of built out what those what those improvements would need to be in the future for these roads. And part of that too, staff explained to me earlier, also has to do with, you've got in commuters and out commuters, and you don't want everybody to have to drive right through the middle of town on your smaller roads. And so there's a safety concern there too, to be sure that you're moving, folks, traffic in a manner that makes sense.
I think it's also
I
a
add
good
one
time
thing?
to add, like, why are we doing this before the development has happened? Can you speak to that? Like, why do we as a city like to try and get ahead of that?
I think, as far as 19 Road goes, this is where we go from trying to play catch up to getting ahead of development. And I mean, let's face it, 19 Road isn't just busy because of development. J Road backs up at 19 Road all the way to Wildcat every morning at 8 o'clock, as we all know, right? Now that the middle school and the high school are together, I mean, we put a lot of thought and a lot of care into how it's not just about widening 19 Road, making that corridor safer. It's about the J Road intersection. It's about the free right turn off of J and the free right turn off of the Highway 6 and 50, the free left turn off of the 6 and 50. We're putting a new span wire pole in an island. I mean, the coordination with the school district, with CDOT, with all the existing utilities, including Ute Water, the fact that we're running a brand new sewer line from almost at the canal all the way to JN 210s. Every single person on that road will have access to a sewer that's deep enough to feed their house, to not feed their house, to actually have it come out of their house. You know what I mean? So, I mean,
Service
the improvements aren't just about the road. I mean, people are really, really focused on how people are going to get back and forth, but we're going to be draining storm water through a storm scepter. And storm drains all the way from JN 210th. All of the irrigation underground piping is getting updated from JN 210th all the way down to Iron Wheel. You know, we're doing a lot of things that are going to benefit everybody out there. So, and I just wanted to really quick clarify based on what they were just talking about, like the coordination that we've had to do with CDOT. I mean, CDOT put some specific rules on us and we had to follow them to the letter. You know how it can be working with an agency like those guys, but man, they have been so great to work with. And all we had to do is just make sure that they knew we were following their guidance. And so you guys are going to be able to turn an 18-wheeler off of 19 Road, heading back towards Fruita when this
Now
is
I'm
done.
holding you to that. I have someone who will test
It's a
that for you.
WB50 radius design, you know, I mean, it's a big turn. So anyway, back to questions. I apologize.
Any other questions before call to motion? All right. I'd like to do a call to motion. Somebody care?
I move to approve resolution 2025-06. Oh, 5?
You must be on the next.
I'm on the wrong one. Give me 1 second. Here we go. Thank you. I move to approve resolution 2025-05, a resolution of the City Council of the City of Fruita authorizing staff to commence eminent domain proceedings in court against property commonly referred to as 966 19 Road, Fruita, Colorado, to acquire right-of-way for 19 Road.
Second.
We have a first and a second. Any additional questions or comments before we call to vote?
I have one comment. I know it's been said many, many times tonight, but negotiations can continue as we go through this eminent domain process, that it's not done. We can still do the way that we intended to go if all negotiated folks come to the table.
Anything else? All right, with that, Deb, would you kindly poll council?
Counselor Hansi,
Yes.
Counselor Parrish,
Yes.
Counselor Downs,
Yes.
Counselor Miller, and Counselor Williams.
Yes.
Motion passes 5-0.
Thank you very much. Next up is Resolution 2025-06, a resolution of the City Council of the City of Fruita authorizing staff to commence eminent domain proceeding in court against property commonly referred to as 99319 Road, Fruita, Colorado, to acquire right-of-way for 19 Road. And this is also presented by Mary Elizabeth Geiger, our city attorney, Steve Martinez, project manager, and Dan Karras, our planning director. And Steve, from the head nods, it looks like you're up first.
Yeah, I'll take it from here. One quick point before I get into the second timeline for this second resolution. As we're talking about building roads and getting ahead of development, I think that one really important point is to recognize that as development happens, you know, we do require developers to improve at least their half of the road. So rather than having those guys pinning roads onto old roads or us trying to build roads where everybody already lives, this is a very logical approach to completing the circulation plan and being ahead of development. Again, just kind of part of the topic, but I wanted to make sure that that point was made. These first few slides are pretty much the same thing as the last one. With the exception that with the second property that we're talking about tonight, the Barlow property, when we sent out our 90-day notice, we didn't receive a response from them at all. There was no response at all. And even certified letters that went out to the property got returned. One of them was because of an animal, like the mailman couldn't, mean dog or something like that. So basically between April 16th, upon recognition that we weren't getting a response, trying to figure out like what was going on at the house, what was, you know, going on with the landowner. Of course, I'm working with a professional right-of-way person at the time, but I'm constantly sending emails and making phone calls. But what's the update on this property? Like what's happening? We decided that we would look into maybe hiring a process server to deliver the paperwork. But because we were approaching the deadline for when we needed to have acquisition done in order to get to construction, obviously, way past that time. But I went ahead and made the decision to have the property appraised on my budget so that we knew what the value of the property was before we start negotiating with the landowner. That way, I felt like we could just get ahead of it. If we could get a hold of them with a value, here's an appraisal, this is what your property is worth, and make the offer that way, that we could shorten the timeline a little bit, but to no avail. We never got a response. We did actually get the appraisal completed by September 9th, but then on October 3rd at our third and final 19 Road update meeting, we found out from Officer Pacheco of the Fruita Police Department that the landowner who we had been sending letters to and trying to contact was actually deceased. And through a little bit more research, realized that there's not an heir to the property. There's not a trustee signed over. The property is still in his name. The kids have no legal right to the property without taking it into probate. But he did give me contact information for the deceased property owner's daughter, Nicole, and I was able to finally get a hold of her on November 4th. Nicole realized, I mean, there's a lot of information that goes into all of the things that are working against her on this property. The tenant at the property, things like that, maybe falling behind a little bit on the mortgage, but she's going to work with a probate lawyer to get the property into probate so that she can work on getting her name on the warranty as the trustee. I don't have any idea how long that's going to take. Mary Elizabeth might be able to speak to that a little bit further than I can, but because of the situation with this property and because of the timing, the irrigation update line that I was mentioning earlier, this goes right through this front yard. And also, in order to move the Grand Valley Power District's power lines back to the appropriate right-of-way location, we have to cut some trees on this property as well. So we need to get access to the property as quickly as we can, but we cannot get a hold of anybody except for Nicole. She's warned us against knocking on the door. You know, I mean, there's like an actual sense of danger involved in that conversation. So based on that information and the fact that the landowner's daughter is currently working on getting this property into probate, I feel like we could work kind of sideline to each other to make sure that she gets paid for the property once she gets her part done and once we get our part done. But I think we're going to need the courts to help us make this decision. And so on the Barlow property, our recommendation again is to approve resolution 2025-06 to commence eminent domain proceedings in court against the property commonly referred to as 993 19 Road, Fruita, Colorado, to acquire the right-of-way for 19 Road.
And I would like to just add a little bit to that. The issue is that there isn't somebody who has the legal ability to sign anything on behalf of this property. And even though Nicole is working on that, and by the way, Steve kind of breezed through this, but we did follow the same process. They did get the 5-day notice and then the final 10-day notice. She actually didn't respond to either of those. And again, she can't bind the property anyway. By starting the proceedings in court, as Steve said, you know, working in tandem, hopefully she gets somebody engaged to be working on her side. But the court can also order immediate possession so that the city can go ahead and start working within that land that's going to be acquired for the right-of-way before the, you know, actual closing and conveyance has occurred. So this is another situation where, as well, it may not go all the way through the court process if, you know, her probate is quick. Unfortunately, that's going to depend on if Mr. Barlow did leave a will, if he didn't, if there are other siblings, if there's any inner dispute among them, you know, as to who should have title to this property, that sort of thing. So I really can't tell you how long it would take. Could be short if, you know, if there is a will and it's clear what's supposed to happen. But if If not, it could take a while. So I do recommend that at least council authorizes staff to be able to start this process so that we don't have to come back to you in like 2 months if still nothing has, happened to be able to convey it.
Bring it back to council.
I'm curious to how that looks if we, well, a couple of things. I wanted to, what was her name? Nicole?
Nicole.
Did we get a temperature on what she would, say she gets the probate and everything's good? Does she seem like she's on board with what we're trying to do there and she understands? And what's your sense of that?
I've been in contact with her. I've spoken to her on the phone a number of times, and I actually just received a text from her the other day explaining that she's got an appointment with a probate lawyer. She'll keep me posted. So she's going to work on that. So she's also aware that we're planning on commencing condemnation on the property. And I've explained to her that condemnation doesn't mean that you don't get paid. It just gives the city access. So please, in order for you to get paid, you need to be the owner of the property. So just go figure that out. I've sent her information about probate law. I've sent her some of the forms that I know she needs to fill out, trying to help her along, but she's well aware of the situation. This one is probably more of a team effort where she understands, and based on the fact that the person that's living in the house is probably going to be very, very uncooperative, that legal access to the property ordered by a court is 100% the best way to go on this, so that we can get the trees trimmed, we can get the irrigation lines set before the water gets turned back on, and then we can commence next spring and into summer for actually widening the road at the property as well.
And just to clarify, those probate forms are online and accessible to the public.
Absolutely.
Steve was not
I'm not a lawyer.
playing
Giving the
attorney at the time or giving advice, but just actually for everyone's information, you can go to the Colorado Courts website. They have forms for every type of case, getting you from start to finish so that folks can, go through these processes on their own. So anyway, that's
Probably should have clarified that. I got them from the website.
You got that. So say that they're not through this process, they don't have the probate, and we end up going through our process and we end up getting, acquiring the piece that we need. What does that do with those funds? Do they sit in?
They will
how do we
probably
make
sit in
sure that
escrow at
they're
the court.
compensated when time comes?
Sure. So as part of this process, the city is required to deposit funds into the court registry to be held there. Obviously, you don't know 100% what that dollar amount is going to be, but based upon the appraisals, you put something in so that, yes, in this instance, if we, end up going the whole 100 yards, but we still don't have a warm body to pay, that will sit there until that, until that is legally taken care of. Yeah. Yeah.
Any other questions?
Not at this time.
How long what's the time frame for, like, so we're gonna vote on this tonight. If you guys started tomorrow on the proceedings, what's that time to finish the process and you being able to have legal action?
Let Mary Elizabeth answer.
First off, I was only over here laughing because I will not have anything ready to be filed tomorrow.
No,
I just want that to be clear. Just to be clear. So
Start to finish.
yeah, start to finish, Counselor Hansi, excuse me. That's a good question. I don't know. I do think eminent domain proceedings they're considered special proceedings that at the courts, don't have to like fall behind in order of having been filed. They're kind of get on a fast track, so to speak, because it's obviously there's a lot of factors at play there. So as far as getting that order of possession, I'm going to guess 30 to 60 days. And then, I don't know for the final determination of the amount and the payout. I'm not totally sure how long that would take, but the point of being able to ask for that possession is that is supposed to happen quickly, because otherwise, why would you, be pursuing that?
And again, this is a different situation than the first resolution that we had tonight, but still, again, very transparent process. I think we thoughtfully went through it, respectfully went through it. And this is the avenue that we're deciding, and everything's done at fair market. So
Yep.
appreciate everybody's diligence.
Well, and I'd like where you were going with the asking the timeline, and just for the open record of it, I think that's an important point because we are on a pretty tight timeline,
Mhm.
and we've been kind of pushed past the point to where we're comfortable at this point, and we've been as lenient as we really can. Also, we know that there is a certain timeline that we need to get things done before the water comes in. And we've all talked about that a little bit, but maybe you guys could talk about it just a little bit and tell us what that timeline looks like and why we're kind of up against on this, and we've got to kind of get it done at a certain time.
Yeah. So just along the same lines, we did change a little bit the route of the sewer line to avoid this property, but we can't change necessarily the irrigation. I mean, we don't want to put an irrigation line up underneath the brand new road, so it needs to be in the right of way off to the side where it exists right now. Irrigation water gets turned on at the end of March. The timing for this is it's almost like to the point where it's an emergency, especially for the contractor, because all of that irrigation work needs to take place before the water gets turned back on, or else we're shutting head gates and you know, nobody wants to have to deal with a day or two without irrigation water.
That's a big day.
It is, but the other thing too, in order to, a lot of the underground work requires the power poles to be moved. And I don't know if any of you guys have noticed, but out at 19 Road, all the power lines down on the south end have been replaced with a new set of lines. Again, with the coordination of everything that's happening, they can't mobilize to move those lines until we have access to the Barlow property. And so there's the timing couldn't be more important. It's very important.
We're out of time.
We're out of time. Yeah.
I think it's that we've pushed ourselves to be to the very
Yeah.
end because
we've
we wanted to
expanded
have a
this.
respectful
Sure.
transparent process.
Amy, anything? Andrea?
I think the mention of the timing is really crucial, and the timing from this side of what is this called?
Dave?
The dais.
Is especially important for us as representatives of the voters of our community. And all of us I'll speak for myself. I would ordinarily be very energized by a Save Our Farms initiative because I don't want farms to go away. Nobody here wants our farms to go away. And I've been so impressed by the staff's ability and willingness to maintain full transparency, to answer any and all questions, to literally push a gigantic project to the emergency point to give landowners the ability to cooperate or to collaborate or to engage in this process. It is a constitutional process that is necessary for us to accomplish. And I had to remind myself a couple times what we were talking about were slivers of land. It's not a farm. It's 0.1, in one case, it's 0.14 acres. That I think it bears repeating that there was no personally, again, I never could catch the city doing anything that was hasty. In fact, I was a little bit like, come on, like let's do it. Let's make sure that we can get this project back on track or whatever. But the city went above and beyond. And I think that bears repeating. And I think that at this stage, it would be, I'm proud. I'm proud and I'm grateful. And I think you mentioned that you even took out of your own budget the appraisal for this property in question. And that's huge. That I would dare a municipality to put as much patience and transparency into such a thing as the city of Fruita has. You have my backing. I'm very, very proud of that.
Thank you, Andrea.
I just want to echo, I think what's been said by most everyone would compliment the staff on the thoroughness and the willingness to work with the citizens of this community and with us as a council in explaining all of the complexities of this decision. And I am comfortable with what you're recommending.
Thank you, Rich. Just one last time, James or Aaron?
I'm good.
All right, let me get, with that, we would need a motion to move forward.
I move to approve resolution 2025-06, a resolution of the City Council of the City of Fruita authorizing staff to commence eminent domain proceedings in court against property commonly referred to as 993 19 Road, Fruita, Colorado, to acquire right-of-way for 19 Road.
Second.
First and second, any other questions or comments before we vote? Deb?
Counselor Parrish,
Yes.
Counselor Downs, Counselor Miller,
Yes.
Counselor Williams, Counselor Hansi. Motion passes 5-0.
Thank you very much. That ends the administrative agenda. I would like to reiterate just what was said. I want to thank staff and everybody else for all their hard work and communication, both publicly and to council on this matter. With that, we are going to move into the interim city manager's report. Shannon.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor and Council. Yeah, speaking of praising our staff, we got some excellent news Friday afternoon. We were notified that we are eligible for a grant of up to $2.8 million for the Reservoir 2 breach up in the Mountain Waters properties at Glade Park. This is a huge grant. We weren't really quite sure how this project was going to be funded unless we got some sort of grant funding eventually. So I want to thank our staff for really looking at every opportunity available. This was not our first or our second or our third grant application up there. This took a lot of time. So congrats to our public works staff and also our engineering staff. Our contracted engineer, SGM, also helped a lot with the grant application along with the design. So bringing them on has been an excellent decision, and we're very happy to receive this grant award up to the $2.8 million. Only other note, our community survey, we have hired a consultant. We're going with ETC Institute, which is the same consultant that we've used for the last 3 or 4 surveys. Not only are they very qualified and highly experienced, they were also the low bidder. We got a proposal for $16,000 out of a budget of 25. So very excited to continue working with them. And I think they'll do a great job as they have over the last couple of community surveys. Timeline, we're still right on track. We'll discuss questions next week. The design will be complete in February, mail in March, and then have a final report delivered to staff in April with a presentation to council in May. So right when we're kicking off our budget process, council will have a lot of that information in hand to help identify priorities. And last thing, next Friday, Winter Concert Series, Black Canyon Boys. Very excited, and there will be blankets, I'm told, too. So,
Blankets? Yeah,
yep.
it will be cold.
Yep. Fruita blankets. And that concludes my interim city manager report. Thank you.
With that, we're going to go back to council reports and action items.
Can I ask Shannon one quick thing?
You may.
That? Hey, Shannon, can we go back to that grant really fast? Do we have a timeline on when we need to use that? And I know we've talked about the cost of that. Can you maybe dive into that a little bit? And is it a matching grant? Just a little
It
bit
is.
more.
It is. We have a small match, so I believe the total project cost is between $3.1 and $3.2 million. It is federal funding. It's funded through the Inflation Reduction Act or the IRA. So there are usually a lot of other requirements that you have to meet when dealing with federal funds, but it's more than likely that we'd have to meet those anyway because the reservoirs are on federal lands. So I'm guessing we're probably still within, 1 to 3 years of when this project could be potentially complete, but this definitely relieves a huge burden off Fruita taxpayers to help out with that once it's done. Kimberly, anything to add to that? Yeah.
No, great job on getting those funds because we were all looking at that like.
Yeah. And
yeah, that's great. Thank you.
Yeah.
All right. Any other questions?
Go ahead.
All right. Amy, we'll start with you.
I have nothing.
Nothing to report.
All right.
Nothing.
Wow, I have to report.
I've got multiple items, so don't feel the need.
Wow. No, so I had police commission. Not really too much going on. It was nice because Chief gives us the updated numbers. Fruita has gone down 20% in our calls and in the crime that's being committed, while we were the only municipality in the valley that did that. So we're very happy about that. and talked to him about the animal control thing. That has been a huge issue for a little while. Seems like right now they've got a sort of a kind of a fix that's going on. We've made some headway with working out the county and ways that we work that. So it's not as stressful. The animal control piece of it is. I don't have all the working pieces, but it was nice to hear Chief say that they're really happy with where they are. Yeah, so that took that stress off. Another meeting that I went to was a brand new downtown business group. Shannon and we went, and Shara and we were all there. Wait, you weren't there? No. But anyway, it was great because we had a bunch of the downtown businesses come in and we kind of just brainstormed, and the chamber had put it together. And it looks like they're coming up with a bunch of really good ideas on how we can all collaborate and get some things forward. One of the things that was brought to me because I was there, and I was there as a representative of my business, but since I'm on city council, obviously that was tapped into a little bit. Talk about the possibility, because we were talking about doing a map that showed downtown Fruita and what businesses are where and some things like that. And someone had mentioned maybe possibly getting a kiosk, or lack of a better term, that we can maybe put in Mulberry Plaza that kind of incorporated that. Kind of like if you go to a mall, you see the maps in the malls, but those are, I don't know to what degree or anything, but maybe that's something that staff could look into to see what the reality of doing that is. And maybe we could partner in with this group as we get the map being, and from what I gather, see Giselle's working on a map already. And I don't know if you guys know Giselle, but she's a fantastic artist and she's working on that already. So it's in the process. So maybe we can jump on board. So if you guys can maybe check in with.
So is this an independent that's being organized by the chamber?
It is, yeah. There was an invite that went out to attend, and it's open to any businesses that want to be involved. The turnout was really great. I was happy for the turnout, but it looks like there's going to be some pretty aggressive goals moving forward, and I think if everybody's on the same page, we'll get to some good places. But the kiosk being the main thing that I wanted to bring today, that if we could maybe look at that and partner with them, I think it would be beneficial to everybody.
I think we've talked about that before, haven't we? Maybe not as a council.
I think we
know
have
it's been
brought it up, that it would have been nice to have some sort of direction, because it's a center part that people kind of wander into. So anyway.
I can shed a little bit of light. Part of the fruit, since I am a city representative.
Oh, that's
of the
right.
Chamber board. Part of the discussion at the retreat was chamber is supposed to be the voice of business. And it was the chamber purposely kind of organizes it. How can we be better at it? And that's part of what spurred this group for downtown. Anything else?
That's it for me.
You have one thing regarding Mulberry Plaza. A concern was brought to me about extended loitering within the plaza, where people are spending excessive time getting warm or hanging out, and it's putting a pressure on business owners to maybe mitigate that. And I was just curious if there's anything that could be done that would be a positive solution to try to maybe keep traffic circulating through Mulberry Plaza in a way that doesn't burden the local business owners.
The plaza falls under our current park rules, so I can get with staff and see if they're kind of hearing some of those similar concerns, and if there's anything that would be noteworthy for the specific area. I think generally public places, there's generally not a lot you can do to encourage, traffic or anything else. We've run into that, at parks and whatnot. But I'll get with our staff and see if we've heard some of those concerns, or if you would be willing to share some of those concerns you've heard from businesses. I think it'd be helpful too. Thank you.
I've got a couple items on my list. I know some of us, I'm assuming all of us, received some information about off of 19 Road with the county possibly okaying a plastic recycling.
Oh, that's right. I want
plant. So I'm assuming everybody got the email.
Yeah.
No.
I sure didn't.
Okay. And I don't have a whole lot of details except for the fact that there is a group looking at putting, I think it's over possibly up to 100-acre plastic recycling plant out on 19 Road. And what?
A good portion of that is a solar array to
Just-
support the plastics recycling plant.
So my only point of reference was the one email. I did call Cody, our county commissioner, Cody Davis, and said, hey, feeling a little bit in the dark on this. Can you help shed some light on this project? What Cody told me is he also,
Right, but this is an application.
this is to the county, not to,
Sure, okay.
okay, this is a county matter. But I did ask Cody for information. Could he provide us? His response to me was, I'm just learning about this from the county planning. And he has requested additional information that he said, once he gets that, he will forward that to me. And that I can then share or have shared with all of you so we can start getting some background information. At this point, I feel like we don't have enough information to have a conversation, but we should get it on our radar to potentially have a conversation with the county about what their plans are and the potential impact to Fruita. So that's one item I wanted to keep you up to date with. I would like to kind of get council's feedback. We have a school that clearly, has been shut down by District 51, and we're not quite sure where that's going yet, but I do think we need to start to get ahead of this. And what I'd like to propose to council is that we arrange a meeting with school district, all of council, and maybe bring in some other outside partners to actually walk the property. I've personally have never been inside that facility, but to try to get information about what their facility assessment said on that property, to walk through and then start the conversation of what are the possibilities and how to think about what to do with that property. It's coming, or that opportunity is coming, and I would like for us to get ahead of that. So if everybody's comfortable, I'll kind of start that conversation.
Please.
Great. And I say that because I'm asking, more of council, more meetings. I did want to say thank you to everybody on council. I've seen more of you guys over the past few weeks than I have in like the whole year. And I know it's been a lot of work and everybody's put in a lot of time and effort and everything going on. And I just want to say thank you. It has not gone unnoticed by a lot of people. And speaking of schools, Shannon, can we talk about anything with traffic, or is that too soon?
Traffic.
Around the existing, our schools?
Oh yeah, if you have questions, we can definitely try to answer them.
Well, I think has there been any conversations about any traffic mitigation with all the schools being on that one section?
Yeah, absolutely. So I brought Matthew up to speed on this at our meeting last Thursday, but there has been a request from the schools to see if we can install some pedestrian flashing signals, just due to all of the new traffic at the high school and the middle school. We do have some savings from our pedestrian safety contract last year that we could roll over into this year to help fund those, but it's something that I think as staff, we would definitely recommend. They're going to go in eventually. We're just applying for a Safe Routes to School grant to help fund us a variety of different improvements up on Wildcat. So we just wanted to get direction from council if you're okay with potentially moving forward with that.
Is that similar to like what we did over by Family Health West?
Yeah, they'd be a little more bulky. They'd probably look very similar to what you see on 12th Street right in front of the college. It's like 12th and Cornell or something.
And what were those funds? Are those funds reserved for that?
Yeah.
Or it's not taken from some other.
This is just general fund dollars that we generally use for capital projects. So this would meet the definition. And, we've been told that there's definitely a need due to all the students going there now. So
we had originally allocated it for the other project though.
Yeah, but we had
it's leftover funds.
Yeah, we had
from
some
that.
savings. Yeah.
Okay.
And then also looking for grant dollars.
Yeah, and we've been, our staff, our engineering staff, and then the school district, they've been working together too, along with our planning on a safe routes to school for eventually a variety of different improvements to that whole corridor going to 19. Because with all the development occurring at 19 Road, there's going to be more kids, walking to the middle school, biking to the high school, et cetera, that we know that there's going to need to be some pretty big improvements there as, more students are going to both of those schools. Yeah. Yeah. I think I got direction.
Yeah, you,
Yeah.
right, everybody?
Yeah,
Yeah.
everybody,
Yeah. Thank you. Yeah.
thank you.
Yeah.
All right. Anybody else have anything before we close?
I did forget that I attended the Martin Luther King celebration yesterday and was very proud to represent the city in the multi-municipality proclamation. It was a very big turnout, which was really neat to see. I've attended that event the last 4 years, and this was a very well attended event with very good representation from all agencies, and just really cool thing to be able to represent Fruita in that.
I appreciate that, Amy. Yep.
One more. White ice is coming up.
Oh, yeah.
And I know we've talked about it before. We want to, I'd like for us to have a table at it so that we could be represented. And I don't know what that looked like. I know we brought it up a while back, but is that something you guys want to do? What does that look like
Yeah, we could
We
definitely.
can as we can.
as a council?
Yeah.
Yeah. And I think it'd be very important that we're there. If any of you guys have ever attended that event.
What is
Yeah, it's D51's annual fundraiser, their foundation fundraiser. And it's pretty important. I think that we should, as a council, attend that. I don't know that we have before, but we should.
And so we'll look at getting a table. And
Yeah, we can, I'll have Katie send out availability, see who's attending, but yeah, we can definitely do that. So anyone can attend. I also know someone will get a discount too.
Yeah. Either way, you look at, because it would be a +1 type of a situation.
Oh, sure.
It's
Yeah.
you take your
Yeah.
date, but
Yeah.
it would be very good of us to appear at that.
Yeah. So we'll send out just to confirm how many people, then we'll get that many.
Perfect. Thanks, Shannon. Yeah.
Thank you for remembering that.
Sam would have killed me.
Okay. With that, we're going to exit out of the council reports and action items. We'll need a motion to move into executive session after a 5-minute bio break. So we need a motion to move into, and we can do, Mary Elizabeth, we can do a motion for both executive sessions at once.
Actually.
Or no, we'll need to do executive, come back and then go back
Yes.
in. Okay, so I just need a motion for the first executive session.
Why are we doing it now?
Yes.
Well, people here gonna do, move into executive session after a 5-minute bio break.
Okay,
Or is there, technically, do we need to do the bio break and then move?
I would prefer that.
Okay,
But everybody knows that's your next action item.
That's what
Yes.
we're doing.
Maybe
All right.
I move that we move into recess for 5 minutes.
all right, the time, that's not even a second, we don't need it, it's 9:02. We'll reconvene back here at 9:07. Thank you.
Thank
We've got some stuff to talk about. All right, it's 9:10. We are back in session. We've wrapped up council reports and action items. Next, we head into executive and would need somebody to make a motion on item A only.
Mayor, I move to convene an executive session pursuant to CRS section 24-64024E to develop strategies for negotiations and inform negotiators regarding the city manager contract.
Okay, first,
Second.
all right, any questions? Discussions? All right. Deb, kindly poll council.
Counselor Downs,
Here. I mean, yes.
Are you really here? Are you really?
slap
here?
happy. Counselor Miller,
Yes.
Counselor Williams,
I'm wondering, yes.
Counselor Hansi,
Yes.
and Counselor Parrish.
Yes.
Motion passes
All right, so
5-0.
the time is
Thank you.
9:46 and council is reconvening in open session. All right, so Mary Elizabeth, are you sending us a contract to review?
So I think as an opening, you guys should talk a little bit about,
Oh, I already have the opening.
okay, you got the, okay.
All right,
All right.
because we could not do this the other night, I want to each take a very brief moment to kind of talk about Shannon and why we kind of made the decision of going with Shannon. So who would like, I could do this or somebody can just volunteer. We're going to embarrass Shannon.
Being new, knowing Shannon for what, not even 6 months? Well, I guess a little more than 6 months.
Almost a year
Started
now, yeah.
March of last year. I have been very much impressed with the thoroughness, the professionalism, and throughout the whole interview process, I will admit initially you were not on my top the list, but you moved up there very quickly as we reviewed the other candidates, and there were so many pluses to having even a young, not as experienced individual taking that position. And when it came down to those last decisions, it was really easy for me to make the decision that you should be our candidate.
Thank you. Very nice.
Shannon, I really appreciate your love for the community. And it shows in everything that you do. And one last thing, because I don't want to steal from anybody else, but it's a damn good budget.
Oh.
Thank you. I appreciate it. That is the most
The D word, Shannon, like.
I swear on record.
Thanks.
The best thing about that budget, just so you know, because you didn't get to know this, every single of the other candidates raved about how good that budget was. And we were all kind of laughing because we're like, we knew who did the budget.
Oh, yeah. Oh, that's too funny. Thank you.
Thank you, Aaron. Who'd like to go
I
next?
can go next.
Yeah.
I think you should know that, like, we came into this when we were deciding on who we were going to end up with, and we were very much of the same mind that you were, higher up on our choices, which was reassuring. We had 4, as you know, very, very strong candidates. But your knowledge of Fruita, your passion for Fruita, it just, that weighs, how our culture is here.
Yeah.
And how much weight that carries.
Yeah.
And so, the heart that you have for this town and for this job and for serving the relationships that you already have established, you are very well thought of in the community, outside of this community, in the grander, in the county and the state. And that's awesome. That's really benefits us.
Yeah. Thank you so much.
And you really did a great job with the interview process.
Oh, yeah. Thank you. Appreciate it.
I was going to say that too. You really showed up for the presentation and for the interview too. And it was so nice to see someone that we know in a new way.
Yeah.
And it was very easy for me to imagine you as our city manager because your passion and knowledge of this community is unmatched. And when I thought about if we could scan the whole wide world for someone that had your unique blend of experience and care and camaraderie and rapport for this unique position, you're one in a million, more than a million, 6 billion, whatever it is. A lot of people. And a kicker for me in a really wonderful way was during the interview process with each candidate, I would try to read our temperature and look at our expressions and our body language and just try to feel what the candidate was eliciting out of us. And with you, it was this, and it was laughter, and it was bubbling, and it was partially because we're comfortable with you, but partially because of what you were able to draw out of us. And I think that's a unique and wonderful thing that really, really shone through. Easy choice, easy.
I think for me, as always, Amy going before me steals half the things I'm.
Pal.
But as did everybody else. My main thing is that since I've gotten this job and since I've started spending time with you, I've been absolutely blown away. 100%. There's never been a moment that I've ever went, oh my God. It doesn't happen. And I can't say that. I can't say that with all people. I know I really can't. I don't. I'm sorry.
There may be those moments in the future.
I'm and I'm sure we'll have some of those moments and then it'll be fine. But I'm very particular who I put in my universe, and I figure that you're one of those people that I put in my universe. I think you're an amazing person. I want to watch you grow. There's nobody on this planet that is better for this job. Full transparency, it was your job in my mind from the beginning of day one. It was somebody else that had to come in and take it from you, and they didn't even get close.
Right.
So that's where I land on the whole thing.
When we look at for the love of Fruita, that should probably be on your name tag, along with your title. Unlike James, actually, I came into this process, there was nobody given, for me, it was a wide open slate, and whoever was going to get this job had to fight and earn it. Yeah. And you did.
Yeah.
You brought your A game and you earned every step of it. None of this was, oh, let's check the box, let's go through the motions, posting it and doing that just so we can, go with Shannon. That was absolutely not the case. I don't know, we had over 4 hours of discussion.
Yeah.
And please don't.
That's it. I feel like it was more than that. Yeah, that's a
part of those discussions were who represents Fruita, who's got the culture of Fruita, who understands this. We said from the very beginning, this was a big part of this was a cultural hire. But the other part of the discussion was, here's what we have coming up in the next 18 to 24 months. And who do we think can be the leader and the champion of that? So you absolutely earned it. So thank you. Thank you for putting in the application at the time and all the work that went into it.
Yeah.
So I think we can do an official hurrah or golf clap, whatever you guys choose.
And just since she's not here, she was totally not rooting for you.
Oh.
He's watching.
Oh no.
Janine would very much second everything we all said, and it's all coming from the bottom of our heart, dude.
Yeah. Yeah. Well,
So we now have to take action.
Yeah.
So Mary Elizabeth, if you check your email, I see that you sent us out a revised contract. Okay. So I want
I
to,
think the salient points, do you want me to point those out?
yes, please.
So this contract, for the public's benefit, the draft originated from the contract we had with the former city manager, Mike Bennett. So the major changes that are reflected in that really is the salary for Shannon at $182,500 per year. Everything else follows the benefits that are provided by the city to the maximum extent, though, for employees, including vacation pay, sick accrual. There is a severance provision. That provision is starting at 6 months and then adding 1 month for each year of continued service up to a total of 12. And I think those really hit the main points of the contract for if anybody has anything else they want to add or highlight from that.
Anybody else have anything they'd like to add or highlight to this? Okay. Now, in terms of protocol, we have to approve it.
We have to approve mayor signing it. Is that what we're
Then-
You
approving?
need to, yes.
All right.
Okay, I make a,
But
mo-
it's still not approved until Shannon signs it.
Yeah, it's not final and
but we need to approve you signing it. All right, I make a motion that we approve our mayor to sign the contract as written to hire Shannon Vossen as our city manager.
Second.
We're going to fight over second, but Aaron won. Aaron won.
I guess I would also note that the effective date is set as tonight. So Shannon, at
Is
the
it
stroke of midnight.
Tomorrow morning? Tomorrow.
Tomorrow.
Okay.
Yes.
Be on the
Stroke of midnight.
stroke of midnight.
You're still just a lowly intern at this point, bro.
Enjoy the time. You're the-
So effective
we have a
date of
first-
January 22nd.
All right, we have a first, we have a second. Any additional discussion or comments?
Nice job, guys.
All right.
We did a great job.
Ciara, would you please
Yes,
poll council?
sure. Counselor Miller,
Yes, absolutely.
Counselor Downs,
Yes.
Counselor Parrish,
Most definitely.
Counselor Hansi,
Yes.
and Counselor Williams.
Yeah, I'm gonna go with it.
I don't get to vote. Oh. All right, congratulations.
Thank you, Shannon.
Thank you, Shannon.
Thank you.
I just sent you actually.
Hey,
City Manager.
Yeah.
you're welcome. Thanks.
No.
Okay.
Been arguing about?
No, the city manager pays a lot better than mayor.
You don't want that mayor job.
Shannon, what do you say?
Yeah.
We can't talk about till next year.
All right, since we are still in open session, we will need a motion to go into the next executive session. And as part of that motion, we also need to note that we are inviting our municipal attorney into the meeting as per Mary Elizabeth's previous guidelines.
I move to convene into exec.
What did I say?
Said turn.
Oh, sorry. So, but she will stick around to make sure we get the motion correct going in. All right, you're up.
I move to convene into executive session for discussion of a personnel matter under CRS section 24-6-4024F for the municipal court judge's formal review.
All right, first,
Second.
you have a second. Oh crap, I forgot to write this down. All right, would you kindly poll council?
Counselor Parrish,
Yes.
Counselor Down,
Yes.
Counselor Miller,
Yes.
Counselor Hansi, Counselor Williams.
Yes.
Great, thank you very much. And then